Hey everybody, welcome back to Checkerboard Chat, the official sports podcast of the Daily Beacon. I'm Tyler Wombles, that's DeMichael Cole, and we're back to bring you more Tennessee athletics news, debates, and once again, whatever we feel like talking about. Right now, we feel like talking about some Tennessee football. There's a pretty important game that took place on Saturday with a pretty important ending. DeMichael, do you want to just sum it up for us real quick?
It looked familiar. It looked real familiar. It
Yep.
looked like 351 days ago familiar.
It did.
But instead of, jumping
different
around with
side,
joy, that they were on the other side this time.
Yep.
And it definitely hurt a lot of Tennessee fans.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah.
And
It's the easiest way to sum that one up.
I'm sure everyone knows, but in case someone doesn't know, the Florida Gators beat the Tennessee Vols 26-21. Or was it 26-20?
26-20.
26-20.
Hail Mary.
They're calling it a Hail Mary.
yards.
It's a 63-yard touchdown pass from quarterback Felipe Franks to wide receiver Tyree Cleveland just as the game ended. Like the clock was ticking off. Needless to say, do what?
Yeah, let's touch on that. Earlier in the week, we talked to Bob Shoop, the defense coordinator for Tennessee, and he completely, which I thought was a very professional act from him, he completely broke that play down
he did.
to us. And basically, it wasn't a Hail Mary play. So he thought like calling it Hail Mary was actually, too much. And he basically said Tennessee was in the right defense for the play, and they were protecting against a field goal. And everyone knows Florida has a kicker that can kick it
They have a great
55 to 60 yards. So just,
yeah.
anything you want to add on that?
Well, like you said, Bob Shoop did address it. He started out his press conference a different way than he normally does,
Right,
and I think that was sort of the tone for press conferences this week. There was a difference in the atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
I know Butch Jones took a little bit of a different route than he normally does in his press conferences. He sort of just laid it all out there. He just, sort of said, this one's on me. We have to be more accountable. We have to we have to make sure the details are right. And that was something that's been praised by a lot of fans, a lot of media members, for him sort of just taking account of that. And Bob Shoop did the same thing. But he also, I thought it was really interesting when he explained how the play went.
Mm-hmm.
He said they were they were protecting for a field goal.
Exactly.
They were not expecting a touchdown pass because they knew that Florida's kicker could, if they got him in range, he could most likely hit it. And they didn't expect Florida to throw a 63-yard bomb into the end zone. So
it made sense because if you look back at the play, as Bob Shoop said, they took away the number one option, number two option. He literally, he had to run around by time for them to get to the end zone because the original play was drawn up for them to kick a field goal. So Tennessee was properly defensed on that play. It's just some bad luck.
It was, and so just DeMichael segueing a little bit back from the game and sort of into what's going on right now. Just how would you describe the state of this Tennessee Volunteers team right now?
Well, honestly, I think the team is in a better state than the fans. I mean, all week the team has talked about, we're past it. Mm-hmm. We're getting past this. We're looking on the UMass. Even though that's very cliche.
Sure,
but
that's what you expect them to say.
Yeah, that's exactly what you expect them to say. But I mean,
that's what they should say.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like players have stepped up, talked to the younger players about, hey, we're moving on to UMass, and I feel like the players. They're ready to play, and they've talked about they're just ready to get back on the field. I think the fan base, that's another story.
That tends to be another story with Tennessee. Obviously, there is some talk right now from a lot of fans, obviously, about Butch Jones' job security, about debate between fans over whether or not they think he should remain the Tennessee football coach after this season. We're not going to get into debating all of that here, but I did notice that there was, painted on the rock, there was a thing that said, I think, fire Butch now.
Yeah.
But then it was quickly painted over, and I'd say that was not a coincidence. I'd say someone did intentionally paint over it. In which they should have because, personally I think that's just a terrible act. I think that, to use a school symbol, I mean, you can have your opinions on the team, on Butch Jones, all that, but when you use a school symbol to just write a message like that, it just really degrades it. It degrades the university, and I think it really degrades the student body. So that's just my opinion on that. But DeMichael, just talking a little bit about UMass, is there any specifics that you would like to mention for the matchup?
Yeah, UMass is, of course, everyone knows they haven't won a game this year. They're 0-4. But, all their games decided by 10 points or less.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think that has to be taken into account. I mean, they haven't played, ranked teams or anything of that nature, but, I mean, all of their games have been close. I mean, according to Butch Jones, he said their quarterback, Andrew Ford, is a NFL prospect.
He did say that, yeah.
Yes, and the tight end that they had, I believe he was the number 1 ranked tight end out of high school. I know he was the number 2 on 24/7
His team
Sports.
does have talent.
So, yeah, that's basically what I'm getting to. They have talent, and Tennessee can't sleepwalk into this game, which I don't expect them to, but they can't sleepwalk into this game because, I mean, UMass does have talent.
No, and I think this is a game that most fans, even with the current climate of the program, I think most fans and people around the program believe that this will be an easy win for the team, or it should be, one of those games, maybe like an Ohio or maybe a Tennessee Tech, sort of somewhere in the middle of that. This is a program that's a little bit bigger than Tennessee Tech, a better program than Tennessee Tech, but if the Vols are playing like they shouldn't have any problem against UMass. If they did, then that would be a hugely different story. Yeah. But we don't expect that to happen. But DeMichael, we do have another topic to talk about, and we actually have a guest to bring on in about a minute. But the Tennessee soccer team is actually undefeated on the season. They're 9-0. And they are, they're surging. It's the best start they've ever had to a season. Is that right, or are they tied for the best start?
Oh, it is the best start.
It is the best start. Yeah. Okay. So they got to 9-0. It's the best start they've ever had. They just get 2 more wins, and then they equal the amount of wins that they had last season. So we're actually going to have one of our soccer beat writers. His name's Corey Sanning. He's a copy editor here at the Daily Beacon, and he covers soccer for us. He's actually going to come here on the show, and we're going to talk to him a little bit about what we expect, what we have seen from this Tennessee soccer team, and what we expect to see from them later on in the season. All right, so we've got Corey Sanning here. Obviously, I already introduced him a little bit, but Corey, just sort of introduce yourself, tell us who you are, and why we have you sitting here.
Good evening, one and all. I'm Corey Sanning, and I'm the soccer beat writer here at the Daily Beacon, and I'm also a copy editor, and I'm here to discuss some ball soccer with these two fine gentlemen.
Yeah, so Corey, obviously you covered every home game this season. Just what have you seen out of this team so far? Do you have any key takeaways that you think made them get to 9-0?
Well, I'll tell you this. Coach Penske before the season noted that he wanted Tennessee to become a better possession-style team, both offensively and defensively. And you notice one area that they struggled last season was the offensive end. They only recorded 35 total goals. Through 9 games, they have 22 so far. Mm-hmm. So the offense is really taking it up a notch. Khadijah Shaw, I think, has been easily the anchor behind that offensive unit, and their defense is still playing pretty well. They've had 7 shutouts out of 9 victories.
And you mentioned Khadijah Shaw, and she's actually a junior college transfer, right? Just talk a little bit about her. What have you seen specifically out of her, and just how much of an impact do you think she has on the team?
Her brass confidence is what has stood out most to me. She came in, and she's big. She's 5'11". She stands out above everyone else on the field, but her confidence is so sky high. She'll take 2 defenders on one at one point by herself if she has to. She's confident. She'll deflect all credit off of herself. She's on a good track, I'll tell you that.
And DeMichael, last season DeMichael and I covered some soccer games, and you said 5'11". That reminds me of Hannah Wilkinson. Yeah,
exactly.
She was a standout player that they had last year, really a star for the team. I think she was exactly 5'11".
Exactly. I was just gonna pick up off of that. That's crazy how they moved from one 5'11" leading scorer to another. But I just wanted to ask you, what about who else is stepping up? We've heard a lot about Khadijah Shaw, but what other players are stepping up?
Well, a few others that I've noticed. Goalkeeper Shay Yanez has been fantastic. Like I said, she barely ever allows the ball to come near the goal. Maya Neal's defense has been fantastic. She's sort of been the second anchor behind that unit, behind Shay. And one other person, she doesn't get a lot of credit, but I really think that Ariel Kapritz has done a very good job at being a veteran leader on this team, because you have to have that person you can look to when you're in these moments. Like last week, they finally had to deal with pressure against Virginia Tech when they were only up by 1 goal. I really think that she comes through when they need them, despite her minutes restriction due to her ACL injuries.
And I was going to ask you about another player, too, Katie Cousins. Obviously, she is a player that did not play last season. Right. She took a red shirt because she was playing in, I think it was the women's U20 tournament, national tournament. But she's a player that's been a standout for the program. She's one of their most popular players. Corey, what have you seen out of her specifically, and do you think she's a leader for this team, or just what have you seen out of her?
Oh, absolutely. Backing up of what I said about Khadijah and her confidence, Katie Cousins is a very confident individual. She believes that she can go out there and take anyone on. She, like I said, she scored her first goal against Virginia Tech, and it was off of 2 Khadijah Shaw misses, but she's very confident. She's out there to do whatever the team needs her to do. She doesn't care if she scores. She doesn't care if she even gets in. She's there to cheer her team on, and as she said, they've been killing it right now.
Based off what have you seen so far, what are your realistic goals? I mean, what do you think this team can do this season?
That's a good
well,
question.
We've discussed this team hasn't made an NCAA tournament since 2012.
Right.
That's true.
And that's something Coach Penske is well below his standard, as he said many times this season. And like he said, they've just begun. For me, I do expect to see the Volunteers in the end return to the tournament this year. I haven't seen a soccer team play to this level in quite some time since Penske became head coach. So I do expect them to take a deep run now. We'll see how it happens against South Carolina on Sunday, but right now I think they have to be in a pretty good mental state.
Nice.
For sure. Is there anything else you'd like to mention, Corey, just about any other takeaways that you have to see?
One thing I will say that the atmosphere at the home games, I wasn't not sure what I was going into when you guys assigned me this beat.
Okay.
It's been incredible so far.
Oh, yeah.
They've had 1,000+ fans at every game. The fans stomp their feet loud. They cheer it on. It's been an incredible atmosphere to witness, and it's really it's rewarding to see those players fight so hard and to be paid off with these memorable performances, because they've only allowed 2 goals all season long.
Wow. Yeah, it's impressive.
Sure. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the Regal Rowdies? I remember when I was covering that, Bill was like, man, but
they are something else. I'll tell you that.
They are a campus institution.
They represent the Volunteers with pride and faith, and they do their job.
Yeah, I know that they if anyone doesn't know, the Regal Rowdies, they're the official student section of the Tennessee soccer team, and they actually, it's an actual organization. Like, they have a president, I think, a vice president. They have members. But they go to every soccer game. They organize different events for the team. And one thing that stood out to me about them, I forget the name of it, but they had this big drum. Have you seen the drum?
They have not brought the drum out so far this semester. Like I said, we've seen John Curry there multiple times.
Sure.
We've seen they had the voice contestant there singing the national anthem last week, in Emily Ann Roberts, but I've not seen the drum yet.
They didn't have the drum?
They have not have the drum yet.
Guys, that's disappointing. I'm just going to say the drum.
Tyler wants the drum.
Yeah, well, I mean, it has a name. I keep wanting to say it's Bertha, but I don't know. There is a name for the drum. Because there's a guy that, I remember there was a guy with dreadlocks who used to carry it around. And I don't know if he still does, but he carried the drum. He was there. That's all I know. I'm not going to talk about the drum anymore, but it was there. I'm not crazy.
I know.
I am a witness.
The drum was there.
So,
I will let you guys know if the drum makes an appearance again this season.
Yeah, and and actually, this is just a fun tidbit. DeMichael and I, before we were the editors, the first game I ever covered here, and DeMichael was on the beat, and we covered soccer. So, just a fun little thing. We have a lot of experience covering this team.
Definitely.
And like I said, they were 11-9-1 last season. They got beat in the SEC tournament. You're right. I think it is rewarding to a lot of the fans and a lot of the players definitely to see this program mature to this level. I actually remember that I got an email before the season started from a fan, and he was asking about a soccer preview. We hadn't published one yet, but he just sort of said, I think this year is really key for the Volunteers. He said, I think that Penske has a great group this year, and I'd like to see him coach them up. Yeah. And I think that they could go really far if he coaches them up. Corey, do you think that their success has been more attributed to the mentality and the talent of the players, or do you think that's more of Coach Penske's design and his coaching that has led them to this point?
I think you could actually throw in elements of both there, because I've talked to Coach Penske and I've talked to the players. These players are there for each other. They're willing to fight for each other, whether they're sitting on the bench, whether they're in the game. Penske, from what I've heard him say, he instills that mentality within this group. He's very supportive of each and every one of them. Even if they make mistakes, he always has their back. He's always there when you need him. And that's one thing and he's always calm too. The calmness of a coach is something that I've really believed in for
sure.
the majority of my life. But yes, Penske, I think it has a little bit to do with both.
Nice. And not to mention, they had one of the top recruiting classes in the nation.
Oh yeah.
So
they're
a very talented team.
They are, and like we said before, it's almost a little surprising. I don't want to say surprising, but they had, Hannah Wilkinson last year. And obviously her sister Rianne was a star for the team 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And then Hannah Wilkinson was just a standout for the team.
Yeah.
I mean, just sort of like Khadijah Shaw. She was a big player. She'd run people over.
And teams will put all their focus on Hannah. So it's
and so it's interesting to see this team sort of, I think a lot of fans probably wondered, and a lot of reporters, what's going to happen. And so it's sort of interesting to see where this team is going. But Corey, we thank you for your time.
Yep.
I'm glad we can have you on today.
Me.
Hopefully we can have you on a lot more. And what's your Twitter handle?
My Twitter handle, is for everyone that would like to know, is @SanningsNBA, SANNING NBA.
Okay, yeah. So just Corey usually live tweets during the matches. So just anytime you want to follow him, and make sure that you follow me. I'm @Tyler
and DeMichael @DeMichael C. Just DAMICH AEL with a C.
Okay, and so just follow us. Just follow us on Twitter. Make sure you follow UTK Beacon Sports on Twitter for the Daily Beacon Sports. Also follow the Daily Beacon and check us out on Facebook. But yeah, guys, I think this takes us to the end of our podcast. We thank you for joining us. Check back next time for more discussion on Tennessee athletics, news, updates, just whatever's going on. Signing off, I'm Tyler Wombles.
I'm DeMichael Cole.
I'm Corey Sanning.
And we'll catch y'all later.